Welcome to From the Mezzanine, a film podcast. We're Chuck and Matt, two guys from the Midwest who love all things film. Why would you want to watch us? Because we're not professionals, we don't trade opinions for special access, and we pay for every film and streaming service we watch. We cannot be bought. We're not here to shill meal kits, read ads from a teleprompter for products we don't even use. Starting now, we're talking wall-to-wall movies and television. Chuck?
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Influencers are not to be found here. We influence very few people right now, but I still want to shout out to our episode that's almost at 100 views. That's a milestone for us as we reach our 25th edition of From the Mezzanine. So if you've been here from the beginning, thank you for sticking around. It's honestly kind of, I guess nice that we've lasted this long and have been this consistent. We haven't missed a week, so there's a lot to cover this week, actually, I guess, relatively, compared to, I guess not so much compared to last week.
Yeah.
And we're kind of leaving some things on the cutting room floor because we have social lives, because this isn't our full-time job. We're still very much amateur, as it were. But to get us started, all the superhero movies, are still kind of dominating, the focus of the internet right now. Especially a little movie called, we're talking about some news about superhero stuff. We're going to be talking about Tokyo Vice, the latest from HBO Max, with Michael Mann's involvement in a cohort of other people. A video game called Weird West, and of course, the title of the episode this week, Michael Bay's latest film, Ambulance. But you had a parting question for us at the end of last week. Could you remind me what that was?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple this week, pretty cut and dry. If you could own any movie-used prop or item, what would it be?
And I'll just go first, because I honestly hadn't had a chance to think about this question until I was working on the show today. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I realized it could be had and that, it's something that's out there, I know that it probably isn't technically for sale because who would ever fucking give this thing up? Mm-hmm. But the lore behind this piece of, movie history was that Lucasfilm stopped paying their rent on a storage locker that they were keeping all of their models and miniatures for A New Hope, and one of the employees just happened to walk by and see all of these priceless artifacts in the sitting outside by a dumpster, and amongst them was the Death Star, which is now has safe and has a home somewhere in Seattle. But if I could own that, I'd be pretty fucking happy. I would put that in the middle of my home somewhere, just inescapably. It'd be hanging over my dining room table like a chandelier. Mm-hmm. But
So how big is that in real life? I see a person's leg there on the side of that
who
picture.
Knows?
So.
Yeah, but it must be pretty big. If you think about it, I couldn't find. Yeah, it must be at least compare if you have a 5'8" person next to it like myself, it must come up to shoulder height probably.
Okay.
Yeah. That thing would be pretty fucking cool. It's no Rosebud, but it's fucking Death Star, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so I was kind of trying to think a little more, or think practically about it, and I didn't want to just be I want a flying car from Blade Runner, something completely impractical or something like that. So
or the Death Star.
Yeah, the Death Star. So what I settled on was, I was thinking about movies that kind of were important to me at various points in my life, and the first thing I thought of was Jurassic Park. And then I was kind of what is iconic from Jurassic Park that wouldn't be super unwieldy? And I thought, I'd like to own the cane with the mosquito in amber in it that Richard Attenborough walks around with.
Yes.
Because that would be very, it's very practical. It's not very big, and you can put it somewhere in your house. You could do anything with it really. You can put it up on a wall, or you can just like throw it in a closet somewhere.
Because the implication, it's made of like it's a dinosaur bone. If you look at it at least these replicas that I'm looking at.
Oh, the cane itself?
The cane itself, yeah.
Okay.
So it's dinosaur bone, and then there's, of course, the mosquito and the amber. There's replicas aplenty to be found. Lots of Etsy shops making unofficial stuff, but you want the one that the man himself was holding.
Yeah, the movie used
the movie used prop. Which we pray to God that like Hollywood has realized how important these things are, and they pay their fucking rent on time for the warehouses taking care of these artifacts. Yeah, that's really fucking cool. I would totally understand that one. I would love to have something like that too. Yeah, because I toyed with a few different things. I love the Stephen Sommers mummy movies. So having the Book of the Dead with the key and everything, that would be really fucking cool. But yeah, like a lot of the replicas that people make are just chintzy. You want the real deal. And looking at a lot of these Etsy shop products, you can kind of tell, oh, that amber's not the right color, that the mosquito isn't quite right. You got to have all of those things in their proper place.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be cool. And I didn't look into it enough. I should have, but I kind of wonder where that is nowadays. Like who has that? Because
I think there's a whole website devoted to that, because that's how I was able to find out about the Death Star.
Sure.
Yeah.
It'd be something interesting to look up someday. But I mean, if I was Richard Attenborough, I would have yoinked it right off the set. Yeah.
Well, could you like talking about? We talked about special features last week, and the holy grail of special features that, or at least like stuff I loved watching, was all the Lord of the Rings extended cut, stuff. And that's pretty much what those actors did. They pillaged the prop and set room of those movies for products. And God bless them for it. It's like, oh, we have swords, we have chainmail. Okay, yeah, let's just take it. Like, this belongs to me now. Like, what are they gonna do? Fire us? The movie's already, they're in post-production now. They're not even thinking about us. But if there was I don't know. I haven't seen this movie, but I wonder if Jared Leto kept his vampire teeth from Morbius. Because this movie had some insanity in the end credits department. And I had found a funny meme where like some internet, netizen admitted that I really shouldn't see this movie because it'll ruin the fun of all these memes. Like people acting like this is God's gift to cinema and shit. But this had 2 end credit stingers, one of which was completely nonsensical and an afterthought that they were like, oh, Spider-Man No Way Home did some shit. We just need to acknowledge it in some way. But from what I've gathered, apparently Michael Keaton's Vulture character has tripped through the multiverse and wound up in Venom Mobius verse. Yeah. And he is going to be teamed up with Mobius. I put Morbius instead of Morbius. I fucked that up. But they're going to team up with him and Venom to fight a Spider-Man that does Spider-Man now exist in this this weird Venom verse now? Is that the implication?
It's weird because in the after credits scene, basically Jared Leto's Morbius meets Michael Keaton's Vulture in the middle of a field, and Michael Keaton's Vulture says something to the effect of, I know who's responsible for all this multiverse stuff. It's Spider-Man, and I'm gonna go after him. You want to team up, Morbius? And for absolutely no reason, Morbius, who doesn't know who Spider-Man is, says, "Yeah, let's team up. Let's do it."
Yeah, well, isn't he supposed to be a good guy?
Yeah,
like in theory,
he's a good guy.
Yeah. If there is a good guy in this weird, because I read the synopsis to this movie and it just made me die. And I understood where Matt Smith was coming from, where he was like, I have no fucking clue what this movie was on about.
Yeah, it's so wild because it's funny how Sony is almost retroactively making the MCU movies worse by doing this. Like they're just, I just have this picture of Amy Pascal just having like having a field day with this because she's so like, I don't know. Did you ever read like any of the Sony emails?
Oh, they were hilarious.
Yeah, she has such like a hate boner for Kevin Feige and Disney like as a whole, and so I bet she was just having a field day with fucking up their universe.
How can I piss in this punch bowl? It was all that she was thinking about. So this is just Operation Chaos, Amy Pascal edition. And what was the other one? The other stinger? Because was the first one the fact that Vulture was there, and then the second one was we're teaming up.
Yeah. The first one is basically him teleporting to another jail cell in the Morbius verse, and then because nobody knows who he is in this universe, they're just like, oh, why are you in jail? We're gonna let you go.
You haven't done anything wrong.
And so, yeah, and for the record, this is now the second let's team up end credit scene that we've gotten with Vulture, because the end credit scene for the first Spider-Man MCU movie was him approaching the guy who becomes Scorpion and saying, let's team up. So
he's been trying to get the Sinister Six going for like 2 fucking movies now.
Yeah.
And so how did that work? Did they have to ask Marvel for permission to use the Vulture and get Keaton, or was he part of the package?
He's part of the package. The rights that Sony has includes all of Spider-Man's villains. So
wow. Okay. So but it leaves out everybody in the Spider-Man movies who were MCU exclusives. So Doctor Strange ain't crossing over.
Yeah, only if they've been kind of playing nice for about 8 or 9 years now, and they've been trading characters essentially. But I don't know how long that's going to last now that Tom Holland's MCU contract is up. So
because there was also some rumors that were scuttled by the director of Morbius that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was technically going to be the Spider-Man of this universe, and we were going to get him back. And I guess he put those rumors to bed. He was like, that's not what's happening here. As though he would have the say, And that's
he's a gun for hire. I doubt he has any sort of say on any of this.
I didn't even retain his name. I just read his quotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is all fun and good, but I'll tell you what's not fun, and is a big deal, apparently. Ezra Miller just can't stop getting drunk and being a jackass. And he was in Hawaii, and he was at a karaoke bar, and he just got mad at some couple and attacked him. So he gets arrested, and Warner Brothers is just like, well, shit. We need to kind of put the brakes on a little bit, because this isn't the first time he's done something like this, as I understand it.
Yeah, there's literally the other incident that people often call back to. There's literally a video of it. You can look for it on YouTube, and it's of him. It's of a fan approaching him in the street, and for no reason at all, he tackles her onto the ground. And
he attacked a woman?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And
oh my god.
So yeah, this is, I don't know, it's kind of a trend now of him getting shit-faced and then not being able to control his want to fight people, I guess, or something. God,
he needs to talk to Russell Crowe. This is just Ezra Miller fighting around the world. And so now there's a fun picture going around of the Justice League cast in better times, where they're all happy, and doing press, for the rollout of that movie, and they're all the ones who are gone are grayed out, and now it's just Wonder Woman and Aquaman left.
Yeah, it's very interesting though, because since I added this story to the our outline, there's actually been kind of an update where Rolling Stone originally reported that there was an emergency meeting at WB where they decided to put all of the Flash stuff on hold.
Oh God, really?
Yeah, and since then, WB has come out in defense of Ezra Miller and said that Rolling Stone's reporting is greatly exaggerated and there's absolutely nothing wrong. So
what?
Yeah, it's very I guess it's someone's lying basically, and I don't think it's Rolling Stone.
And that's shocking because they don't exactly have the most sterling record for doing their diligence on stories, but this is something that should be easy to verify, even though it's tabloidy. I mean, we got the mugshot. We're looking at it. Like, he was arrested, but this is a pattern of behavior, and for some reason, a lot of people have just decided that all the actors in these DC movies, like from Amber Heard to him, should just lose their jobs. And it's not like these movies make enough money anyway. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Because, speaking of Michael Keaton, he's going to be in the Flash movie as the Tim Burton Batman, supposedly. Apparently.
Yeah, they had... that was supposed to come out this November, and before this actually happened, they moved it to summer 2023.
That's like the fourth time they've moved this movie back, too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's... So I think that at this point, they're going to see if they can kind of ride it out and hope that everybody forgets about this before next summer, which I think they will.
They will. There's the way that the world moves these days, nothing sticks around in the social consciousness for very long, and especially if it burns bright. But yeah, this is low stakes compared to the slap heard around the world, for example, which we're still unpacking weeks after the event. But yeah, that's unfortunate. We wish him the best. Maybe he should go into rehab, or something, and just get some anger management. Maybe that'd be good. And then go on the talk show circuit talking about that so we can finally get a fucking Flash movie released. Yeah. Speaking of Warner Brothers, or at least HBO Max, this was a surprising little announcement that this show was happening at all to me, and the fact that Michael Mann was going to be helming the pilot for it, greatly elevated my interest. But Tokyo Vice finally came out, which, they released 3 episodes of it, and it showcases a based on true story sort of a setup where a foreigner, a boy from Missouri, a Jew from Missouri, a gaijin tries to become a crime reporter in Tokyo, and he did immersion there for 3 years, studied literature, and he's just totally cut himself off from America, and he is Japanese as much as a gaijin can be. And it's set in 1999 at the height of the Yakuza's power and influence during the Japanese financial crisis, and it ended up being a very fascinating and watchable show. What was your takeaway from the first episode to the third as they rolled them out?
Yeah, so I thought the pilot was pretty amazing. It was a very well directed episode, and I told when Chuck and I were talking about it a little bit before the show, I said the pilot's filmed very much like a movie where there's a lot of camera trickery going on, a lot of really interesting shots, and close-ups of... There's a scene where he's taking the entrance exam for the newspaper, and there's all these close-ups of his fingers tapping and his pencil and other people in the room, shots of close-ups of them, and it's just a very interestingly shot episode. And then once you get to the second and third, the show takes on kind of a different formula where it's very much shot like a TV show for episodes 2 and 3, and the show actually morphs into being more about other people in the show, characters that you assumed were going to be side characters now have just as much screen time as Ansel Elgort's character. And so I think that kind of works in some respects, and then it doesn't in others. There's certain characters that I'm not as invested in. But yeah,
the bottle girl stuff kind of loses me.
Yeah.
You know, like it just every single time she has to go talk to the one girl who's just not pulling her own weight, I just got bored and looked at my phone. But
it's a very stereotypical plot line, like a very, very generic plot, because they're obviously leading to some sort of plot where she's storing away a bunch of money to start her own club. So the obvious thing that's going to happen now is someone's going to steal it.
That's what I said. Like, I was just like, oh, Chekhov's money.
Yeah.
You don't have a false wall in your apartment unless someone's going to find it.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I agree. It's very, it's probably the most dull part of the show. It's not unbearable. It's not like I want to fast forward through those scenes or anything, but it is just kind of like, especially compared to like Ken Watanabe and the low level Yakuza guy that Ansel Elgort's kind of trying to become friends with. You know?
Yeah, in a way, this could have been like, forgive me for the comparison, but this could have been like The Wire for 1999 Tokyo, where you have like where you see the strata of it all. You see how they all feed off of each other between the criminals, the cops, and the press. And then the other, I guess it doesn't quite go that street level where you just see normal people and how they're caught up in it. But all of the narrative, I guess, like the mystery of it, the story that Ansel Elgort's investigating, where all of these people in debt are just like committing suicide, you know, because they can't pay off the Yakuza and all their predatory loans. Like, that was a very real thing at the time. And also the reality of Japan not actually investigating murders as murders is also something that still holds true to today, because they want to keep their official statistics low. So like juking the stats taken to its like most institutional industrial, conclusion. And the how they all have to have this weird code where, okay, you give me something, I give you something, in order to maintain the facade of a civilized society. It works very well. And like the music, I guess, is consistently pretty good, as is the coloring and the editing of the episodes. And for the most part, the characters are, very memorable. Like his little buddies in the newsroom, who speak English with him and treat him like an equal, and even the weird Yakuza stuff, like their little hangout where like they have a guy who just makes food for everyone. The little clubhouse that they have. I enjoyed it, and I really wanted to know, are we gonna get all because the whole pilot begins with a flashback 2 years before the opening scene. So are we gonna get that full 2 years in the first season of this show, do you think?
I would assume, because from what I understand, they haven't said whether or not this is a limited series or a continuing. And I think that they're trying to see how popular it's going to be before they say that. And I would hope, because it seems to be moving pretty fast, because the amount of time that's passing between each scene seems to be substantial, because he's getting these tapes from his sister back in America, and there's no way those tapes are getting to him, within any less than like 2 or 3 weeks.
That's true. Yeah.
So, I think we will. The last episode will probably cover that beginning intro part, but I hope so, anyways, because I would really hate if they were to stretch this out like sort of artificially, especially since there's already a kind of like a Bible for the show to go by in the form of the book that was written. So
and the gentleman who wrote it, I forget his, I guess Adelstein, or like Jake Adelstein, he's an executive producer on this, as is Ansel Elgort, which kind of blew my mind, because like, how could that young whippersnapper have any influence? Like Zendaya isn't an executive producer on Euphoria for crying out loud. Like, is this a project that he kind of shepherded and like picked out? Is that how he wound up getting a credit like that?
I did see that because one very, very impressive thing about the show is that he seems to know like Japanese pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, he seems to be actually speaking Japanese, not just like reading it off like a, the script or reading it off a cue card. He seems to actually be able to conversationally speak Japanese.
And he gets the inflections right. Because like, it doesn't matter what the foreign language is, to an English speaker, what is like my sister did immersion Italian when she was running the University of Mary's campus there in Rome, and like the tone and like how loud you were or like how fast you said things, it all just depended on, I don't know, like that. And it seems like he's got the cadence of how Japanese people actually talk, so yeah, like he plays the part very well. I agree, and it's very authentic and genuine, which keeps it from feeling like just like we're all tourists along with him. Instead, it feels like a Japanese TV show that just has snippets of English in it. Just to keep us be able to track what's happening, because all the different characters, they'll drift back and forth between English and Japanese with him. It's funny. Like one sentence will be one, and then the next section of the conversation will be in the other, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, it feels very authentic, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I think we have 5 more episodes left, so
pretty lean.
Pretty lean, 8 episodes, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Definitely. We also, I downloaded this. I haven't had a chance to do anything with it beyond just starting it up to make sure that it runs properly.
Hey, one second before we get there. I didn't
okay.
plan on doing this, but do you mind if I say a quick minute on Severance?
Absolutely, because that just wrapped up, right?
Yeah, the finale was on Thursday night, and I've talked enough about that show on here, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it at, it makes good on every premise it sets up. It doesn't stumble in the slightest, and the finale is one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen in my life. Like it's so incredible. The finale is, not to spoil it too much, but the finale is kind of one of those episodes where they set up a ticking clock for the entire episode.
Nice.
And it's so like tense, and it's so just like, there's a constant ticking clock, and it does that so well. And it just got renewed for a second season this week, right before the finale premiered. And this show is so incredible. This is gonna go down as probably one of my favorite TV shows ever. It remains to be seen what they do with it after the first season, but I would highly recommend this to anyone and everyone.
So is Ben Stiller going to be coming back as is he the showrunner of this?
He's
just the director, the filmmaker behind it, basically.
I think he's technically a producer and director on a couple of episodes.
So who conceived this show?
It was oh god, I can't remember his name. He's a writer, and I think this might actually be like one of his first TV projects. I'm looking it up right now. Dan Erickson is his name. Yeah, this is his first credit. His very first credit. So
Damn.
It must be, I mean, it's probably one of those guys where he's probably had this, rocking around in his head for a really long time, and he's just been able to perfect it. And it's one of those things that's like, this is a guy who has one incredible idea.
Yeah.
And then, we'll see where his career takes him now from here. But I'm sure that he's been able to simmer on this show for long enough to make it as good as it was. So.
Well, I need to watch this. It just kind of comes down to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your praise means a lot, because like some shows do show a lot of promise, but then to exceed what that promise initially was, or at least just maintain it, is an even rarer thing. And Apple, I guess I'm buying Apple TV Plus now.
Yeah, just have you done any of the trials for that at all?
Not yet. So I'm virgin. I can get it for free for a month, and I can see what happens with it. I'll definitely
Yeah, I
do
think
that.
there might even be like a 3 month out there somewhere because
I'll
we
go digging.
that's what we initially got was like a 90 days free type of thing, and if you can get on to one of those, you could honestly watch pretty much everything that's on Apple TV.
That's worth watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, because that Paramount Plus subscription is it just ugh, I don't know. I hate that platform.
There's not a lot on there.
There's not a lot on there, and if back in our platform review like ranking episode, I would have had so much to bitch about because there's so many technical things about it that bug me. But besides the point, this is kind of like the mentionable section this week. It's a little shorter, but Weird West finally came out via Xbox Game Pass, and this is is it Devolver Digital is the developer behind this, correct?
They are the what is it called? The developer is Wolfeye Studios.
Okay, so the publisher's Devolver. Okay.
Yeah, publisher is Devolver, and Wolfeye Studios is made up of former people from Arcane Studios, which is the studio that made the Dishonored games.
And it kind of has that cel shaded aesthetic to it.
Yeah, it's very much a. I think the technical term for the genre is immersive sim.
Yeah, kind of like what was that game called? I'm blanking, but this is gonna bug me. It's in my Steam library. Give me a second.
Very similar to Dishonored, but this is. If I had to describe it, I guess I would describe it as
Disco Elysium, because it's there we go.
Very much like Disco Elysium, the same sort of aesthetic and camera angle, like sort of from the top down or the side down, and it's kind of a mix of that and something like a like Dishonored, but it's just from a different camera angle. And I would say this is a cult Western game where you play over the course of the game, you play as 5 different characters.
Oh, I was going to ask about that. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not a thing where you switch between them. It's sequentially. So you play one character's story, then you move on to the next one and the next one. And each one takes probably about 2 to 3 hours, I would say. And right now I'm on the 3rd one, and so far I've played as a retired bounty hunter who has to come out of retirement, and then a half pig, half man, like eldritch creature was the second one.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And then the 3rd one was a Indian or a Native American guy who is investigating a murder at a whorehouse.
Right on.
And
okay.
So it's very different characters you're playing as, and there's a lot of, this game is more than anything a Western, but on the fringes, there's these weird occult things going on where there's people that are werewolves, and there's witches, and there's like weird like homunculi and vampires, and it's got a lot of weird supernatural things going on under the surface, and it's very fun. I really like it. I'm only about probably halfway through the game, and there's an overarching story that I think is gonna bring all 5 characters together in the end.
Okay.
But it's very fun.
Yeah, because like I was initially I started up like the first 10 minutes of this, and I was a little confused. I was like, okay, but then because I was like, oh, so there's no character creation. I am just playing a pre-made character, and that's kind of a rare thing these days in RPGs, where they kind of say, okay, yeah, make your ideal person and just roll with it. And I was unsure if I had done something wrong when I first started it up, but I like the variety. It's intriguing, and all the occult stuff, of course, is a winner, especially in a setting like the Wild West. It kind of calls to mind the comic book series that's about the Lewis and Clark expedition of Manifest Destiny, I think is what it was called.
Oh, okay.
Where there's like bison centaurs running around and shit like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a very unique game, and The action in it. I mean, you're doing there's a lot of gunfights and stuff like that, and the action is actually more like a twin stick shooter, if you've ever played one of those. Where you're walking and you're sort of rotating your character around at the same time, facing different directions,
like Hotline Miami or something like that. But not quite as frenetic. Like you say, it's a mixture of a lot of different things. It's a stew, basically. Right on.
I'm gonna keep on with it, I think, and if and when I finish it, I will report back again, probably.
I'm probably going to be playing it too. I had intended to talk today about a game called Sundered, which was a Metroidvania, which, while looking very pretty and playing, very smoothly, it turned out to be pretty shallow, and I'm not going to be continuing it. So don't get baited into spending $4 by the Epic Game Store. It's not really worth your time. But I'll tell you what was worth your time, whether you hate him or you love him. But Ambulance was fucking ridiculous and awesome and terrible all at once, which is what you should expect from the man himself, Michael Bay. But that movie was, I don't know. Like, I first saw the trailer for it, I was like, okay, this looks a little like light. Like I just didn't really know what the fuck was going on. And by the time the movie was 15 or 20 minutes into it, I still didn't really fucking know what was going on or who was what and what was who. But what is the big takeaway here? I think it's the initial takeaway from watching this movie for you.
So you kind of described it best, where there's a lot to love in this movie. There's a lot to hate. And they're usually completely different things. This is a Bay movie through and through. If you don't like Michael Bay, you're not going to like this movie. He hasn't suddenly changed because he's not doing Transformers movies. It's a very well made, a very well shot, well choreographed film that unfortunately has a very bad script and a very bad comedy and very flimsy characters.
And from what I gathered, and this is just the sensibilities of the man, he was losing his shit during the COVID quarantines. He was stuck in his house and he was just going insane. And the producer of this movie had tried to get him to make this years ago, and he just was not interested. He was making Transformers movies. And so his Michael Bay's agent was like, well, you have this thing rattling around, seems pretty cheap, we could do this for not too much money, why don't you do this? And this movie was made just to get him out of the fucking house. And it kind of shows, because
the budget on this movie was $45 million, which
has he ever made a movie that cost that much?
No, this is less than half of any other movie he's ever done. And so it's it looks like $100 million movie. He put his budget to very good use.
He just didn't pay a screenwriter. He was having the actors improvise lines, which I think explains Jake Gyllenhaal's character's ridiculous things that he just spews, because it was just, okay, Jake, give me something, and then he's like, life's not fair, I have herpes, or whatever that fucking line was. It just comes out of nowhere, and you're just like, wait a minute, what? But you don't get time to process anything, because his character, I think very pointedly says, we are a fucking train, or we're a locomotive, we aren't stopping. This movie does not stop. You don't get to breathe. You're just barreling through Los Angeles, just driving up and down it, going through underneath the Staples Center. I just can't understand. I was watching it and I just lost track of shit. I don't know. I just couldn't keep up with this fucking movie, which was not really a problem necessarily, but if you care about coherence, this is not the movie to watch. Because the basic premise is these two adoptive brothers, Jake Gyllenhaal and Is
It's
it
Will and Danny Sharp.
Will and Danny Sharp? And I can't. What's the and who plays Will again?
Will is
Yahya Abdul Mateen II. I recognized him from Watchmen. He was Dr. Manhattan in that. And he does a pretty good job of just being the guy who's like, I'm getting pulled into something because of my family, but the characterization dies from that point on. Like, all of the goons and their crew, like, one of them is literally just called Mel Gibson because for some reason Jake Gyllenhaal thought he looked like looked like Braveheart, I guess. But, like, all those jabronis, they all sucked. Like, this was the worst planned bank heist in cinema history, I think. I don't know how they thought they were going to get away with this. And at the same time, you have, and you talked about this in your write-up, but there's just so many fucking cops in this. And all these different groups all have their own plans, and they all fuck it up. Like, nobody does anything right. Like, I was mentally playing yakety sax in my head as I watched this.
It's like, there's a other than, because you think it's gonna be solely to the ambulance, like the movie is gonna be confined to that ambulance, especially with the reports of how low the budget was and stuff. But then he goes and keeps cutting back to all these groups of side characters that include, like, the police partner of the guy in the back of the ambulance, and a mobile, like, command center with Garrett Dillahunt, and a lady who has some of the worst comedic dialogue in the movie.
It's so bad, even for a Michael Bay movie. Like, everything that every character said, like, it's just because I'm desensitized to it that, like, it didn't kill me, but a younger me would have probably flatlined watching this movie.
It was her stuff. Her lines were pretty bad, and then there's also a FBI agent who was childhood friends with Jake Gyllenhaal's character for some reason.
Like a college, like they were college buddies.
College buddies.
Yeah, because they really go slow at giving you any character development or, like, any inkling as to who is what or what is who. As I mentioned before, the reality that they are the sons of a notorious bank robber is just something that is introduced halfway through the fucking movie.
LT or whatever his name was. So dumb, and like, just the fact that, like, that FBI agent guy literally didn't show up until over an hour into the movie. Like, and then he's just suddenly there, and he suddenly is like another, like, character in the movie.
But all he does is just be like, I can't help you unless you do what I need. Like, he's a horrible hostage negotiator. Despite, personally knowing the Danny character, because they drank rosé in college. I do want to commend, Michael Bay for softening his notorious use of gay stereotypes. Because like we had a very casual gay character, the most ungay gay character. That was the FBI guy. He's in couples counseling. He's just like, I don't have fucking time for this. Bye, honey. You guys can talk. There's a bank robbery in LA. People still rob banks? Says the fucking therapist. I guess
he should be commended for not being like a complete, like, homophobe as he's been reported to be, and to the same token for not absolutely completely, like, sexualizing the one female character in this movie, or the main female character in this movie.
And that's Isa Gonzalez, was that her name?
Mm-hmm.
She does a pretty good job, but goddamn, her lipstick never fucking smears, her eyeliner never runs, her ponytail never comes out. I can tell, like, the end, like that is one badass bitch, and we never get a butt shot of her. Like, he does not give her the Megan Fox treatment. And
yeah, he had some restraints not
absolutely.
to cast a Victoria's Secret model.
Like an actual actress, like she apparently took the time like to spend 3 months following like EMTs around and like visiting hospitals and stuff. So there was actual investment from some of the people who made this movie, in terms of their performance, because they knew there wasn't going to be a lot to work with as far as the script went. This movie was all reaction and instinct, and it shows. But I guess that if there is an issue to like bring up, like if there's a I guess it's just something that occurred to me after they did some YouTubing, and the algorithm delivered unto me a clip from Quentin Tarantino from the 90s, shortly after the release of Speed, which he was a script doctor on, just kind of talking about how American movies have become situation movies versus what the bread and butter of Hollywood was, which was story. And this movie does not have a story. Not really. And it barely has protagonists, because as I was watching the movie, I just kind of realized, wait a minute, our protagonists are the fucking bad guys. And the good guys are the LAPD and the EMTs and like all of these people trying to stop these guys from doing what they're doing. And this movie was just hurtling towards this horrible outcome for them no matter what happened. Like nothing, they were, even if they get away with the money, they're going to have to go on the run. His, Will's cancer-riddled wife is not going to be able to get her operation, because if she tries and pay for it, the government is just going to seize that cash. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it just, like, and if there's something that ultimately breaks this movie apart for me, it's that. It's just that there wasn't anyone to fucking care about. Everybody sucked, which is also kind of a Michael Bay, staple. It's like there's very few people in his movies usually that are redeemable. Like even like this was a big fat showcase for the police state we live in, the panopticon of technology and just gun ho, cops, jingoism, yeah, like but then they're all incompetent though. Like this unit that was supposed to be taking down these bank robbers, they fucked it up. Like there was this massive shootout, in downtown LA, right in front of the LAPD, precinct. And that guy's got away in a fucking ambulance with a cop that got shot. And they're just tearing this fucking town apart, trying to catch him.
Just like, he's just outmaneuvering like a seemingly endless line of cop cars in an ambulance. And, it's so funny when there's all these shots where he'll stop the ambulance, but then the police car that was chasing him will just like speed past him and just go off a jump or blow up for no reason.
It's great. Like, the Bayhem is on full fucking display, and that is not a problem. Like that worked for me for the most part. But we kind of skipped over a note that we had, which was, what do we feel about Michael Bay in general, like before we watch this movie? Like is he just a dude bro on tour, or is he an American sellout? Like which of these labels is more correct?
I don't know. I guess the way that I kind of feel about him is I'll admit that when I was a kid, I genuinely liked the first Transformers movie. I thought it was fun, and because that was 2007. So but I mean, all the other ones suck horribly, and I don't really have an affinity for his early filmography. The one thing for me is that's the outlier in his filmography is Pain and Gain, and that was like, it was such an anomaly for him because it's an incredibly like cynical, subversive, dark comedy, and it was almost like a bunch of like scenarios came together in the most unlikely of means to deliver this movie unto us, and it's never going to happen again because
it was Michael Bay made a Coen Brothers movie, basically. Was how it did, and it had something to say, which none of his other movies ever had.
No. So I mean, and now I was hoping for this to kind of bring him back to that, because after that movie, he went back and did 2 more Transformers movies. And then he did that really, really terrible Iraq War movie with John Krasinski.
Was that 13 Hours?
Yeah, 13 Hours.
That was the Benghazi. That was the
Benghazi.
That was the Benghazi movie. And you only really liked that movie if you had a political axe to grind.
Yeah. So it's, you know, he kind of reverted back to his old ways after Pain and Gain. And I was hoping that this would kind of bring him back kind of to that direction, but it really didn't. As much as there are, I mean, I think there is more to like about this movie than there are the Transformers movies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he didn't go far enough, you know.
The stuff that really worked, you know, it obviously is all the technical stuff. Like, he got VR drone racer pilots to be his cameramen for a few sequences, and he did some stuff with those drone cameras that, you know, like David Fincher would spend like millions of dollars on special effects to get impossible cinematography like this movie did for nothing, you know. It comparatively, like, anytime the camera would just like zoom like underneath a pylon and then go between 2 cars and then like over and underneath random shit, it took my breath away, even though like it usually was just like maybe a second of actual screen time. It's just, the movie's so full throttle, it's hard to appreciate.
Disorienting. There was multiple times where he did a drone shot where the drone would it would be very, very high in the air above LA, and then it would do a flip and like go down the side of a skyscraper. Like those shots were so like disorienting and weird, and then he even like did use them indoors too, like when they were running in like the parking garage under the bank, the drone would like go under their like feet or like down by their feet, and it was very it was weird.
The stuff you couldn't do with a dolly or a crane without like coordinating it and being very precise, you know. But in this instance, you just, you know, you tell your actors, you know, hey, just do what feels natural. The drone's just going to do what it wants to do, you know, because have you ever watched those drone VR pilot like racing each other like on those courses and stuff?
Yeah, I've seen like guys on, I think they have it on like ESPN like 3 sometimes where they're racing in like a little obstacle course with a bunch of like lights everywhere and stuff.
So is this the future of like action movie cinematography though? Are we going to see this more often? Or is this something Michael Bay does?
I could see it, because I think it's a very cost-effective way to, I mean, it's a lot more efficient than hanging a guy outside of a helicopter for like a half a day.
That's true.
You know, like it's so much more cost-effective. So I think this is definitely going to become a thing, especially when you need like establishing shots of like of buildings, you know, outside of a building or of a city, like an establishing shot of a city. Yeah,
it's a dizzying fucking movie, and it's worth the price of admission just for that. Do you know what the surge fucking price was this for me to see it at 10:15 from AMC?
No,
it was like $14.
Oh wow!
I felt dirty. I was like, I should not be spending this much. I almost got the AMC Stubs membership just so it wouldn't hurt so bad, but I reeled myself in because I had sticker shock, you know, just to see a Michael Bay movie and one that wasn't even a franchise tentpole.
I want to talk a little bit here about, before we move too far into the actual movie. So we had discussed, we were going to talk about this in the news a couple weeks ago, but before the movie came out, Michael Bay had a lot to say about the movie's so-called shit CGI in interviews. And I'm just kind of curious, did you notice what he was talking about? Do you think you picked it out?
I'm not sure, because there's a shot at the end that could best be described as like a bullet time shot that really seemed out of place, even though I thought it looked fine. That's kind of what my feeling was. I was like, I don't know what looked like garbage in this. I don't know what was egregious, mostly just because I've seen so much bad CGI on like streaming shows lately that I thought this looked really good for the most part. And there really wasn't anything I could single out as being, unforgivably, irredeemably bad, that the director himself would be unsatisfied with it. Like, what did you pick out?
I think I know what he's talking about. There's two moments in the movie where the CG, I thought it looked fine, but I could see where somebody would look at it and say that looks kind of fakey. And it's when they first hijack the ambulance in the parking garage under the bank. There's a part where Jake Gyllenhaal is hanging out of the back of the ambulance and like shooting at the police cars.
Oh, yeah.
And when there's a couple shots where they shoot him from inside the ambulance looking out of the back door, and you can tell he's against a green screen.
Oh, like the uncanniness of it. They're not actually there. The lighting's not right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
and they don't want to put their actor in harm's way, so they just put him
in harm's way. Get insurance.
Yeah, they should have. And then the other one was I can't remember what they called it, but there's a part in the movie where Will has to do a something maneuver with the car. It's right before they hook up with the cartel guys.
Yeah, okay.
And they call it something like a something maneuver, and when he does it, there's a part where there's a camera shot that literally would have been impossible to get, where a camera seemingly goes underneath a car that's blowing up, and you can tell that they basically just did a CGI shot of that camera angle, because it would have been impossible to get, because the camera goes into a space that's occupied by an explosion. Basically.
Okay, yeah. Now I know what you're talking about now, and I can see maybe why there's a guy that prefers practical effects and having real gasoline. Because there was a statistic about Pearl Harbor, just the sheer amount of explosives and gasoline that was used to do all of the effects in that movie, and it's mind-boggling. So I can see why he maybe would just be like, no, this sucks. This isn't real fire.
Yeah, but I mean, otherwise, this was a really great looking movie, and
he strapped the camera literally to anything he could.
Yeah, anything and everything, including a person's body. At many points you can tell that there's like I have this picture in my mind of Michael Bay strapping a Steadicam to himself and then running through an explosion, because there's so many set photos from all of his movies where he's like the one who's actually has the Steadicam on, and he's doing it because he's such a perfectionist that he insists on it.
And it's just too bad that he also took side hustles making all of the Marine and like Army and Navy ads that we see all the time. So it's not that so like the aesthetic of his films look like the aesthetics of our nation's military industrial complex propaganda. So it's kind of his own fault, for dipping his toes in there and being so dependent on having their access and their livery on all of his movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I guess just there was a couple more things I wanted to hit. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Yeah. What did you think of this? Is in the beginning of the movie, where the cops, like the ill-fated cop who ends up getting shot and his partner, and they're sitting in a car having a Tarantino talk, where everything is movie references, but it's all movie references to Michael Bay movies. And I was the only person in the theater laughing. I was the only one who got the jokes, which is funny because the whole point was that the younger cop didn't even know what The Rock was. He was like, oh, The Rock's Dwayne Johnson. And like there was a gaggle of younger people behind me, and I could just hear the whooshing as the lines were delivered.
Yeah, it's all part of the product placement of Michael Bay. He's gonna.
Oh, good God!
Not only is he gonna put references to his movies, but he's also gonna put ads for ADT and for Cheetos and for every car is a Ford.
Yep. There's the occasional Charger on display, but I think that's just because that's the designated vehicle for cops in America now.
Yeah,
all over the country. But
there's other stuff too. Was there anything else you picked out? Any other product placement?
The Cheetos line was egregious, though.
Yeah,
because like that lady who was playing the technician.
Lean Cuisine too.
Yeah, that fucking Lean Cuisine commercial. Because it's like, okay, we not only hear the microwave going off, we see the fucking box, and then we see the character taking a bite out of it. Yeah, those fucking ThinkPads. Everyone had a fucking those like laptops that are just there's a screen. There's like those foldable tablets. Those were all over this fucking movie. Are those actually something that I can buy?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're. I don't know who makes them, but yeah, I think you can.
Those things looked really cool, at least to me anyway. They worked on me. I now want to buy a piece of technology I can't afford.
But yeah, it was. What were you gonna say about the woman, the Cheeto woman?
Like, she was like, she looked so familiar. I at first I thought, wait a minute, she looks a lot like maybe from Arrested Development, but I know that that's not who that is.
Yeah.
So like I did the evil thing. I pulled my phone out on dark mode and I looked up at IMDb because I was like, I just need to know who the fuck this lady is. And she is in nothing. She's just this Australian actress who's been in a lot of like straight to streaming crap, including a movie called like SPF 18. I don't know. That was like at the top of the list, and like that was the only thing I had ever heard of before. But she was just so prominent, and as soon as she shows up in the movie, she doesn't fucking go away. But
it's a very thankless role.
Very thankless.
I'm sure that he was like, well, you're a stand-up comedian in Australia. Just vamp a little bit, and that's what she did. Those are the lines she came up with,
Like, Dad's making gabagoosh tonight. You're not gonna make me late. Don't get those Cheetos in my hair. Like, that's what she was there for.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I really liked the dog Nitro. I thought he gave a good performance because he just gets dumped in a cop car and takes a nap until and that's the reason why the chase ends for a little bit, is because the Garrick Dillahunt needs to save his fucking dog. Yeah. But yeah, driving around in his little smart car. Yeah, like, and everything was so quippy. Every line, it's like, oh, boss, why does it stink in here? Oh, we had Mongolian beef last night.
And
so
every
gross.
single line from I'd be remiss to not mention the rapper Wale.
That's who that was! Oh my god! Like, I thought it was the Schoolboy Q for some reason. I was like, it had to be, but that was fucking Wale. That's fucking funny.
As Jake Gyllenhaal's secretary, basically.
And he really only had one scene, and it was like just to like fuck up, like that. And Jake Gyllenhaal, he must have like acted as though that character was like literally railing Adderall or cocaine constantly, because he was so fucking manic and all over the place. But I guess that's in keeping with what the movie was like, because he didn't stop. It didn't stop until the cartel shows up, and. Yeah, the whole reason they're roped into it is because their dad used to work with them. And they're like some kind of a chop shop that makes vehicles for the cartel, which includes a fucking 50 cal in the front seat, and it's a car that can drive itself.
Yeah, like a remote control
car that has a fucking 50 cal in the passenger seat, just so that it can roll up and just murder all of the cops that we saw at the beginning of the movie.
That was the point of the movie where I was just, that whole sequence was so ridiculous, between like that and then like the cartel guy who like jumped out of the moving car to blow it up with all the C4 in it, and then like ran away and got killed. Gets killed on live TV. Because of course everyone in LA is just sitting down and watching it, because that's something that they do.
Yeah, in the struggle for a firearm, just fucking gets his head blown off, and he happens to be Poppy's son, I think, or something like that. But yeah, it was just all over the place at the end there, and it got a little excruciating when it just becomes clear that there is no happy ending, there is no good guy here. The police state wins, and at the same time, because the beginning with Will on the phone with Veteran Affairs trying to fucking get his insurance figured out was supposed to give you sympathy for what they were going to do. It's like, this man is taken as far as he can. He has no choice. It's a broken system. But it just gets lost in all the Bayhem of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on was I wanted to get your thoughts about the last, I would say 5 minutes of the movie, 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And what you thought was happening there, because the movie basically everything from when after Jake Gyllenhaal dies and they bring them all into the hospital, and what did you think was happening there? Because I had some ideas that were going around in my head, and I was like, oh, I cannot believe they're about to do this, but they didn't. But what did you think was happening?
Well, so when he's in the hospital and saying goodbye to his wife, or saying I'm sorry,
and then the paramedic woman is there,
goes and finds the little girl from the beginning. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I was still baffled by what I was seeing.
Yeah,
that this was okay, yeah, because how does this movie end? That's a real question. It's not really about anything. It's about a broken scenario to begin with, and they've run out of road. Everyone has shot somebody else and has had to move heaven and earth to keep someone else alive. And yeah, the movie had so fallen apart for me that I guess I was just kind of just rolling with it. But what was your assumption? What were you afraid was going to happen?
Yeah, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, how are they going to end this in a way that, is going to be semi-happy, I guess. And my assumption was that, because there's a shot where the paramedic lady is going through patient files to try and find the little girl's room, and then a doctor walks up to her and shakes her head no, what are you doing? And then she
stops.
I don't know.
Yeah, she's like, wait a minute, it's her.
Yeah. But I thought what she was gonna do was switch the patient file for Will Sharp and somebody else.
So
then Will Sharp was gonna be let go because they think he's someone else or something.
Oh god, that would have been R-slurred. That would have been so bad. Luckily no. That would have been really bad. I'm just thinking about that, because that's definitely been done in a movie. It's definitely been done in a TV show. And then her just being now go, run. Take the $100,000 you saved and run away with your cancer-ridden wife and your poor baby. The young man Tate, as they kept on calling him that. Obnoxious.
Yeah, that's I would I guess to kind of close it out, I would just say, if you're gonna see this movie, go on the big screen, because it's not going to be as enjoyable on your 50-inch TV, and go during the day so that you pay as little as possible.
Exactly. Yeah, because if everyone's going to be like AMC, they're going to make you pay through the nose for prime time. And you need to be captive to this movie, because it will not hold you captive at home, no matter how big your home theater screen is. You need to have that booming Dolby Atmos shit. You need to have your teeth rattle, and you need to feel like you've been slapped in the face by Michael Bay's 10-foot dick, because that's what this movie's basically, that's what the experience basically is like. I understand why some people aren't here for that, but if you want to turn your brain off and just see some explosions, this is why you see it. But you're not going to have good script writing. I don't know. I have a soft spot in my heart for The Rock. That's a good, just turn it on, just turn your brain off, have a good time. but you have Sean Connery and Nick Cage carrying the day in that one.
Yeah.
There's no shelter here. The writing is not as good. The improvs are not as good, but the action is still pretty capable and still pretty fun, and it looks gorgeous. But just don't try and understand anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of closes the door on Ambulance. It gets a thumbs up, thumbs down. Basically it's at the same time. If I could do it with one hand at the same, like it's like Schrodinger's cat. It's both good and it's bad.
Yeah.
But looking ahead to next week, we have a few different things coming out. Like some things have already out in theaters that we just haven't had a chance to see yet that we're going to be. But we finally have the latest movie in the Fantastic Beasts series, which I have not seen anything from, unfortunately. But what do we really know about this Fantastic Beasts? The Secrets of Dumbledore. Is this the first time that Jude Law has appeared as the character?
No, I think he was in the last one also, I believe.
Okay.
At like the very end, I think. I don't know. It's been so long, and I don't retain like any of these ones. The Harry Potter movies some of them are good and some of them are hit and miss, but these are just completely forgettable. These Fantastic Beasts ones, and what they're doing with this one, which I think is probably smart in the long run, is they're bringing the action of the movie back to Hogwarts because they know that that's all anybody gives a shit about.
Get us out of America. American wizards aren't as cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so they're going to go back to Hogwarts, and I'll see this one because my wife wants to, and I'll see it for Mads Mikkelsen also. So
I'll wait for it to pop up on HBO Max, and I'll maybe do a full trilogy watch and review of it just for the sake of it. But it's not really something that I care deeply about either. Mm-hmm. We also got Anatomy of a Scandal coming from Netflix. What is this about? Is this a British show?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's actually from David E. Kelly.
Oh yeah, my boy.
So yeah, this is I guess it's about a British person, but it's technically an American show.
Okay.
But starring Sienna Miller, and I think this might actually be based on a true story in some respect, about a high British
minister
elite,
of some kind.
Yeah, who got caught up in a sexual scandal that revolves around consent, I believe, is kind of what the he said, she said of it was. Mm-hmm. So interesting.
Okay. Yeah, David E. Kelly is the man responsible for Utopia and The Third Day. That was his most recent project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he also did oh god, what was that Hulu show with Nicole Kidman where they were at like a rehab retreat? 9 Perfect Strangers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Weird ass show. I forgot about that thing. And so this next one coming from Amazon Prime legitimately has me interested. Mm-hmm. It's starring Josh Brolin. It's called Outer Range, and it seems pretty mysterious. But I guess I'm not quite sure what it's about. What do you know about this one?
Yeah, I watched the trailer, and it seems the premise is some... you can't really call it aliens, because I think whatever it is coming from inside the Earth, not from outer space. So
is this the Hollow Earth taken to its fullest conclusion, basically?
Yeah, something like that, because the premise is Josh Brolin's a rancher, and one day he discovers a seemingly bottomless hole on his land.
Well, okay.
And then a bunch of weird stuff starts happening, and so I'm not sure. Yeah,
spooky.
what's going on here, but this is from a writer, a first-time writer. He has no credits to his name, named Brian Watkins. So it'll be, if anything, probably pretty refreshingly new, you know.
Yeah, God, what's that act? Is that Will Patton? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He's a Michael Bay guy. He's in The Rock.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
and a bunch of other Jerry Bruckheimer movies. Yeah, so that's caught my eye. I'm kind of interested in that. Roar. I don't even know what Roar is.
Yeah, so this is the one that I think I touched on this a couple weeks ago when I was talking about Apple TV Plus and how bad they are about
promoting
advertising.
Stuff. Okay, yeah.
Because this is a new anthology series starring Nicole Kidman, and I think Cynthia Erivo is in there somewhere, and the writer is the woman who wrote Glow, the Netflix wrestling
visionaries show. Behind Glow.
Yeah.
God.
And it's
calm down.
it's kind of, it'll be, I mean, I'll give it a chance, I'd say. I don't know if, you know, how this will turn out in the end, but the showrunner is a woman named Quan Tron, and she was the cinematographer for the movie Palm Springs, the breakout hit starring Andy Samberg, the time loop movie.
I missed that one completely. I don't think I've
really?
ever heard of it.
Oh yeah, that was it was a pandemic movie. I think it came out in summer 2020 on Hulu.
That might be why I missed it.
Yeah, it was it's one of those time loop movies like Groundhog's Day, and where Andy Samberg is stuck reliving the day of his sister's wedding over and over.
Oh, so, okay. I vaguely remember seeing that trailer now.
Yeah, okay. It was pretty good, and I'm sure that's why this woman got that was her breakout, and so I'm sure that's why she got the show. But yeah, it'll be. I'll give it a try. I think I'm going to give it a try, and we'll see how it turns out.
Well, yeah, and they're like, and now that I'm watching this trailer, the way that they're giving you what each of the different parts are about, it's at least a little intriguing, and the cast is pretty studded. But next week we are going to be going to Everything Everywhere All at Once, the latest from the filmmaking duo Daniels, and it's a multiverse movie. It's being touted as the best multiverse movie of all time, but it's Michelle Yeoh and that's Short Round from Indiana Jones and Data from The Goonies.
Yep. Yeah, and his first acting role in 30 years.
We're happy to have you back, bro. We're happy to have you back, especially with something this batshit insane and this goofy. Because if anybody remembers Swiss Army Man, that was one of the more wildly inventive and bizarre things I've ever seen, or anyone has ever seen. Especially to have a mainstream actor like Daniel Radcliffe in it. But this seems a little more, I guess. I don't know, it seems like a more comprehensible and approachable movie from these guys. So yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it has a lot of, to me, this movie has a lot of sorry to bother you energy.
Oh,
Did you ever see that?
Yes.
This seems very in kind of that same vein to me.
God, I'm just thinking about the way that movie ended.
Yeah, that movie is crazy, absolutely nuts.
And that's Boots Riley, right?
Yeah, Boots Riley, yeah.
Okay, just not making sure I'm thinking of the same movie. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Surprisingly, Minot, North Dakota has it, which is to its credit. So I'll be able to see it without, violating copyright law in some way. We do have a kind of a impromptu parting question. We kind of came up with it together as we were getting ready for the show here. Our good friend Will Smith has finally been meted down his punishment for his slap, and he has been banned from the Oscars for 10 years. But I want to put to you, and anybody else watching, who do you not want to see at the Oscars for 10 years or ever again? Who are you just tired of seeing at that event, whether it's just their reaction shots in the crowd or they're just their presence in general? Who do you want to be rid of?
Yeah, I've got a good one for this. Well, I got a couple people that I'm gonna have to try and decide between, but I think just to give you a little bit of a tease, I think the direction I'm gonna go with this one is who is the most absolutely the person I can't stand when they get up on the stage and give their speech.
Yeah, when they win something.
Yeah, when they win something. Okay. So that'll be the direction I'm going to take it in.
Gotcha. All right. There still is an air of mystery to it. But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Matt, for once again taking your time out. We did this very briskly, and look forward to next week.
Yeah. See ya.
Have a good night, everybody.